an engineering problem. Well, for the most part, I'm in terrific physical shape. I have 10 tumors in my liver, and I have only a few months left to live. I am a father of 3 young children, married to the woman of my dreams. While I could easily feel sorry for myself, that wouldn't do them or me any good. So how to spend my very limited time? The obvious part is being with and taking care of my family. All parents want to teach their children right from wrong, what we think is important, and how to deal with the challenges life will bring. We also want them to know some stories from our own lives, often as a way to teach them how to read theirs. My desire to do that led me to give a last lecture at Carnegie Mellon University. On September 18, 2007, computer science professor Randy Pausch stepped in front of an audience to deliver his last lecture. With slides of his CT scans beaming out to the audience, Randy told them about the cancer that would claim his life in a few short months. On the stage that day, Randy was youthful, energetic, handsome, and cheerfully and darkly funny. He seemed invincible. Randy's lecture has become a phenomenon, as has the book he wrote based on the same principles, celebrating the dreams we all strive to make realities. Sadly, 10 months later, Randy lost his life to cancer, and here's a glimpse into Randy's story as told by himself in his book titled The Last Lecture. My medical odyssey began in September 2006 when I first felt slight pain in my upper abdomen. Later, jaundice set in, and my doctors suspected I had hepatitis. That turned out to be wishful thinking. CT scans revealed I had pancreatic cancer, and it would take me just 10 seconds on Google to discover how bad this news was. A lot of professors give talks titled The Last Lecture, and maybe you've seen one. For years, Carnegie Mellon had a last lecture series, but by the time organizers got around to asking me to do it, they'd rename their series Journeys, asking selected professors to offer reflections on their personal and professional journeys. It wasn't the most exciting description, but I agreed to go with it. I was given the September slot, and at the time I had already been diagnosed with cancer, but I was optimistic. Maybe I'd be one of the lucky ones who'd survive. By mid-August, I was told that a poster for the lecture had to be printed, so I'd have to decide on a topic. That very week, however, I got the news. My most recent treatment hadn't worked. I just had months to live. I knew I could cancel the lecture. Everyone would understand. Suddenly, there were so many things to be done. I had to deal with my own grief and sadness of those who loved me. I had to throw myself into getting my family's affairs in order. And yet, despite everything, I couldn't shake the idea of giving the talk. I was energized by the idea of delivering a last lecture that really was a last lecture. They'll let me back out, I told my wife Jay, but I really want to do it. Jay had always been my cheerleader, but she was leery of this whole last lecture idea. Jay felt that I ought to be spending my precious time with our kids rather than devoting my hours to writing the lecture. Call me selfish, Jay told me, but I want all of you. Any time you'll spend working on this lecture is lost time because it's time away from the kids and from me. I understood where she was coming from. Still, I couldn't let go of my urge to give this last lecture. I had the feeling that if I gave it my all, I might be able to deliver something special to people. Jay still wasn't happy about it. When the kids are older, they're going to go through this phase where they absolutely, achingly need to know who their father was. Who was my dad? What was he like? This lecture could help me give them an answer to that. So Jay finally relented. I had to get to Pittsburgh a day early, so at 1:30 p.m. on September 17th, the day Jay turned 41, I kissed her and the kids goodbye and drove to the airport. Jay was already in the hall, an unexpected full house of 400, and as I hopped on stage to check out the podium and get organized, she could see how nervous I was. There was a rustling in the audience as I got myself ready, and then I was given the signal. "We're ready to go," someone told me. I wasn't in a suit. I wore no tie. I thanked the audience for coming. I flashed a giant image of the CT scans of my liver onto the screen. The slide was headlined, "The Elephant in the Room," and I had helpfully inserted red arrows pointing to each of the individual tumors. In the audience's laughter and surprised applause, it was almost as if I could hear everyone collectively exhaling their anxiety. It wasn't just some dying man, it was just me. I could begin. All my life I've been very aware of that time is finite. I admit I'm overly logical about a lot of things, but I firmly believe that one of my most appropriate fixations has been to manage time well. I've railed about time management to my students, I've given lectures on it, and because I've gotten so good at it, I really do feel I was able to pack a whole lot of life into the shortened time span I've been handed. This section may be called It's About How to Live Your Life, but it's really about how I've tried to live mine. I guess it's my way of saying, here's what worked for me. Here's what I know. Time must be explicitly managed like money. Urging students not to invest time on irrelevant details, I'd tell them, it doesn't matter how well you polish the underside of the banister. Rethink the telephone. I live in a culture where I spend a lot of time on hold listening to, your call is very important to us. Yeah, right. That's like a guy slapping a girl in the face on a first date and saying, I actually do love you. Yet that's how modern customer service works. And I reject that. I make sure I am never on hold with a phone against my ear. I always use a speakerphone, so my hands are free to be doing something else. Take a time out. It's not a real vacation if you're reading email or calling for messages. Time is all you have, and you may find one day that you have less than you think. Dream big. Give yourself permission to dream. Fuel your kids' dreams too. Once in a while, that might even mean letting them stay up past their bedtimes. Don't complain, just work harder. Too many people go through life complaining about their problems. I've always believed that if you took 1/10 the energy you put into complaining and applied it to solving the problem, you'd be surprised by how well things can work out. Look for the best in everybody. When you're frustrated with people, when they've made you angry, it may just be because you haven't given them enough time. Almost everybody has a good side, just keep waiting. It'll come out. Tell the truth. If I could give only 3 words of advice, they would be, tell the truth. And if I got 3 more words, I'd add, all the time. My parents taught me that you're only as good as your word, and there's no better way to say it. There are so many things I want to tell my children, and right now they're too young to understand. I want the kids to know who I am, what I've always believed in, all the ways in which I've come to love them. I wish the kids could understand how desperately I don't want to leave them. Given my limited time, though, I've had to think about how I might reinforce my bonds with them. I also see the video of my last lecture and this book, too, as pieces of myself that I can leave for them. So my dreams for my kids are very exact. I want them to find their own path to fulfillment. Near the end of my lecture, I mentioned how vital it is to focus on other people, not just yourself. Because the day before had been Jay's birthday, I arranged to have a large birthday cake with a single candle waiting off stage. I thought it might be nice if I could get 400 people to sing to her. As we all sang, I finally allowed myself to look at Jay. I really had no idea what I would do or say after the audience sang. We embraced and we kissed. The crowd kept applauding. As we held each other, Jay whispered something in my ear. Please don't die. I just hugged her more tightly. For days I had worried that I'd be unable to get through the final lines of my lecture without choking up. I had been on stage for just over an hour, and given the chemo side effects, the long stretch on my feet, the emotions involved, I was truly feeling spent. At the same time, I felt at peace and fulfilled. My life had come full circle. Many cancer patients say their illness gives them a new and deeper appreciation for life, and some even say they are grateful for their disease. I have no such gratitude for my cancer, although I'm certainly grateful for having advance notice of my death. My hour on stage had taught me something. I had things inside of me that desperately needed to come out. I didn't give the lecture just because I wanted to. I gave the lecture because I had to. As I wound down, I had taken a minute to review some of the key points of the lecture. It's about how to lead your life. If you lead your life the right way, the karma will take care of itself. The dreams will come to you. Thank you for coming today.